Yeah, go get a beer. I'll get it all in frame. So you're saying living less than 20, well, about 20 miles away from this event, this national event, during a state of emergency.
No, so
you have no idea what's going on.
No, I do. So the shit.
But you've seen pictures of footage.
Oh God, yeah.
Okay.
But now what I'm starting to see are the dead animals.
Yeah, there's
foxes
after
and
effects
shit.
coming. So you did see a local guy who has the fox den that he's got the domesticated foxes, and they're suffering respiratory issues.
Are we
All right.
starting here?
Yeah. So
Okay.
you're familiar with the East Palestine train derailment?
Yes. So
Okay.
there was.
He's not as familiar, but he's
Okay.
seeing the after effects.
Okay.
Let's take it back to the beginning. What do you guys know was the cause of this, or at least without the National Transportation and Safety Bureau coming in or board coming in and doing a conclusive investigation? What have you heard through the grapevine was the cause of this?
I haven't heard anything in the grapevine about what the cause may have been. I just know that there was a train derailment, and I've seen some of the aftermath. I've seen some people posting videos of dead fish coming down the river in East Palestine.
Leslie Run. It's not necessarily a river, but yeah.
Sure. A creek.
So what
you
is
have
it?
You have Beaver Creek. You have three runs.
Yeah.
One of them is Leslie Run. I forget what the other one is. And then you got the Beaver Creek. So I travel these waterways, and I kind of know the area enough that I can speak on tributaries and such. But anyways, in the city of East Palestine, there was a train derailment.
On the
Let's look at
population of meth
What's the
heads in East Palestine.
There are plenty of them. These East Palestinians love their methamphetamine and cousin fucking.
Yeah.
So there's
Powell Rack is another word for the town.
yeah.
What is it?
Powell Rack.
Yeah.
Powell Rack.
East
Yeah.
Powell Rack. Yeah.
That's Powell Rack.
Yeah. So it's because it's kind of a bombed out shithole.
Yeah.
Now even more so.
So yeah, between East Palestine, East Liverpool, you're talking about places that are 15 minutes away from each other with an incinerator that basically throughout the 90s was protested for what it was burning. Even to this day gets protested because of the fallout from the air. But this train derailment caused massive fallout that was more immediate and may end up being more persistent because it was a burn off on the ground rather than inside of an enclosed incinerator. Long and short of it, what I saw was the causation. I saw a video of this. There was a rail car, boxcar style.
Break an axle?
General Manifest boxcar had a wheel bearing burnout.
Okay.
So this wheel bearing was caught by an amateur photographer down by the tracks. It looked like they were using some sort of night vision camera of some sort. You could see it just lit up in there. You got foamers that go down to the tracks anytime something comes by. They video it. So 2 cars up from the nearest tank car, on the right side as the direction of travel goes, wheel bearing burns out at the front of this boxcar. Axle breaks, goes off the rails, 50-car derailment. There were 5 tanker cars, and these typically are .111s, .112s. The newest ones are like .17s. And basically, different iterations carrying different capacities. So these .111s are carrying vinyl chloride.
Yeah, vinyl chloride.
All right, so
Known
you have a
carcinogen.
chemistry. You
Yeah.
have a chemistry background.
Yeah.
Speak on vinyl chloride and what you know.
So vinyl chloride is a known carcinogen. It can cause all kinds of issues with inhalation, like immediately, but also like,
Because it is a gas.
yeah.
It occurs as a gas.
Well,
What are
I'm
they
not sure
using
if
it
this was a
for?
gas or
Okay,
a liquid.
I will.
What are they making
okay,
this-
so I will tell you right now what I know about vinyl chloride. It is a double carbon bond.
Yes.
Okay, and then you have 3 molecules of hydrogen around it.
Yeah.
And then you have the one ion, the chlorine ion.
Yeah.
All right. So it's basically C2H3Cl.
It's the main component in like polyvinyl chloride, which you're
Yes,
gonna use,
PVC.
like,
It is a
PVCs.
precursor.
Yeah.
It occurs in its natural state as a gas.
But were they carrying tankers of liquid polyvinyl chloride?
Okay, so it
Sure.
compresses
Or-
when in a sealed container under its own pressure. It can compress from a gas into a liquid, kind of like how propane does.
So in
Okay,
these,
so it's got a boiling point of like negative 125 or something like that. I haven't looked at the material safety data sheet for a long time, but I'm very familiar with vinyl chloride. As things go, now you have 30+ thousand gallons of liquid per train car, 5 train cars carrying it. all the other train cars that were on fire previously were carrying, I believe, some sort of benzene or something. And that stuff is what they're not talking about enough of.
Yeah,
Because
benzene.
Benzene's bad.
Benzene rings
Yeah.
are really bad for you.
Yeah, because you got a triple hex ring of carbon, and it's a hydrocarbon. It literally is so it's so carcinogenic that it goes right into the bloodstream just from contact with your hands, and causes liver cancer. This shit's crazy.
It's just like a xylene.
Uh,
Xylene does the same shit.
yeah, but
Gets right in your
worse.
bloodstream.
Worse. Yeah, more carcinogenic than xylene. But it is a solvent and a hydrocarbon. So, anyways, the vinyl chloride was inside of these tankers that had flipped over. So now you're talking about, I guess, like a gross of 150,000 gallons of this stuff, right?
Now, once it sits out, doesn't it turn into something like formaldehyde or something like that?
No, oh, you're talking about
If it sits out.
If it sits out, it just evaporates.
Yeah, but
It boils off.
Yeah, but like the permissible exposure limit for this stuff is like really low. Like it's like so. For example, most of the time, if you can smell it, you're kind of in a bad situation.
Yeah, and it smells sweet.
And well, sweet or like a chlorine kind of smell too.
Yeah.
Like if you're kind of smelling that chlorine smell, you're probably getting like a good like at least 1 to 2 parts per million, I would say, or no. Well,
I don't know what the human
nose
body
is
can
super
detect it
sensitive.
at, but when you're talking about so
Let me look
you
that up.
have lethal dose 50. Check the material data sheet for vinyl chloride.
Right.
But if you have a lethal dose 50, well, actually, this would be a lethal concentration because it's a gas. It would be the parts per million of exposure over the course of an hour would cause 50% fatalities in a test group. If you can find it.
Yeah.
But what I can speak on is it goes from that phase change from liquid to gas once it hits air temp. Over, and obviously, if its boiling point is negative 125 or whatever, it's going to go gas, right?
As soon as it hits.
Yeah.
As soon as it started leaking, it was evaporating up into the sky. Like,
So the problem you have now is you have fires that are heating up these tanker cars. And they said that the critical point would be as if they reached 180 degrees Celsius, all right, or centigrade. If they reach 180 or 188 C, you can have what's called a blevy. You know what a blevy is? Blevy?
What, like?
Boiling liquid, expanding vapor explosion.
oh,
Basically,
yeah.
think if you took
when it hits the air, because it's going to expand
think
immediately.
if you took a can of gas and you put it on a cooker, it's
Eventually.
under pressure. It's going to have that boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion, and when that gas takes off, it's going to go off like a fucking bomb. All right. Now, if you got a 30,000 gallon tanker car, that bomb's going to go theoretically 1.5 miles in every direction with flaming hot pieces of metal, shrapnel flying everywhere for 1.5 miles, and spreading those contaminants over that 1.5 miles. All right. Now, worst case scenario is it ruptures on one side and shoots off like a fucking rocket.
Yeah.
Goes a couple 100 feet, lands in the middle of town, and then explodes. All right, for 1.5 miles in every direction. So this is the risk. So to mitigate that risk, what they did was they channelized some ditches or canalized some ditches with probably Army Corps of Engineers or some kind of earth moving equipment. And then they had some, you know what hellfighters are? All right, so they had the old John Wayne. They had some hellfighters come up from Boots and Coots. No, I don't think it was them. Yeah, the guys from the Gulf War. Okay.
Yeah.
So they had some hellfighters come up from Louisiana and basically put shape charges on those to blow them so that they would go into those ditches, and they had the ditches filled with road flares, and that was the massive burn off that everybody saw. So it was all done deliberately. It was called a controlled release, right?
Yeah.
Well, we call it a controlled det.
Oh, right.
Right. So they blew it in place and canalized the liquid vapor in the ditch, and basically for miles you can see the smoke.
The legal airborne permissible exposure limit is 1 part per million averaged over an 8-hour work shift and 5 parts per million.
All right, so that's some
Not to be
OSHA stuff.
exceeded over any 15 minutes work
So
period.
that's some OSHA stuff.
Yeah, that's OSHA shit.
So that's basically an acceptable work level. What's the lethal,
All right.
like the LC50 for it?
Yeah.
Because I can tell you that the LC50 for phosgene, they broadcast this on the news a lot because that's a byproduct of it. The byproduct of phosgene burning from HCl is like 40 parts per million.
Is anybody back in their house yet?
Yeah, they're all back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about that
lifted.
too.
Do you think
But-
that's even...
There's people that are reporting that they're scrubbing their houses down. They can still smell it. There's soot and smoke and all that stuff. People are talking about their pets being affected. But phosgene is lethal in a room at 3 parts per million.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that's what got old Adolf in the lungs back in World War One. Phosgene's just carbon hydrochloride.
So,
But the biggest thing as far as parts per million that was lethal there was the HCl, hydrogen chloride. Because once it goes aqueous, remember chemistry, on my camera, what's HCl? HCl, hydrochloric acid. Yeah. So in an aqueous solution, you got that. When you breathe it in, it bonds with the water in your lungs, and now it eats you from the inside. That's what's happening to those foxes right now.
well, I'm sure it's not just foxes.
No.
Sure.
Supposedly it dropped a bunch of flocks of birds or anything flying through.
Yeah.
It was dramatic, but think about it. It was probably the best case scenario, I say.
Yeah, it causes an increased risk of a rare form of liver cancer.
Yeah.
Hepatic angiosarcoma, as well as primary liver cancer.
Now, the good thing about that, not the good thing about that cancer, but the good thing about the rarity of that cancer is that when it starts showing up, you'll have a direct link to the event. So that would be covered in a class action lawsuit, although nobody's recovering from that. Yeah, blood, lung, brain, and liver cancer.
Yeah. So I got a buddy of mine who lives there, and two actually. Taylor that works with us, and then another guy that
He lives in East Palestine?
Yeah, his house is there. So he couldn't go home. He was staying at the Holiday Inn here. So we were talking.
Did he have any pets in the house?
He's a chemical engineer. No, but another guy did. So you remember there was a Sean guy that used to be a sales guy out of Pittsburgh, but basically Sean was living in East Palestine, and he put on Facebook that he can't go back to his house. He wasn't able to come home because they blocked him off, and his dog was there. So at least 4 days, his dog was in the house with nobody to come in and feed him, water him. The dog lived. The dog's alive now. And he posted a photo of his dog online. The dog's laying down. Because somebody's like, how's the dog? The dog's laying down sleeping. And I'm like, well, is that a live dog or a dead dog? And somebody's like, thank God he's fine. All I wanted to see was Sean post like, he's dead.
Would you leave Schmitty?
No.
No.
Well,
if
if
you
you
had
do.
to evac.
Well, if you had to evac, you take them with you. But
Yeah.
some of these people weren't home when the shit hit the fan and weren't able to get back in and get their dogs.
Oh, I would have got back in.
Yeah, I'd have got back in.
That's the thing.
Woods
There was a guy like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't get my dog. I'm like, why not? He goes, well, I was working till 3 p.m. on Friday, and then
Yeah.
they had to evac. And I was like, the evacuation order wasn't issued till Sunday. So,
Go in and get your dog.
yeah, you're telling me you didn't have any
Sure,
family?
I'd come and get you, buddy.
Yeah.
You blind
No
bastard.
family, no friends, no plans, no
Yeah.
no ability
Well,
to
then you
think
had
like a man.
Angels for Animals, local charity here,
Yeah.
has posted on Facebook that what they were doing was they were trying to get permission to go in
Yeah.
and get animals. And
They
get
were
them out.
offering space for people to store their
Yeah.
dogs.
And they were saying, like, give us a list of where your house is, give us the key, we'll go in,
Yeah.
we'll get your animal, and we'll bring it back out. And they were going to get permission to do that, but luckily the thing got lifted before they could get immobilized, and everybody was allowed to go home. But my favorite comment
They had
that
to be
I saw,
cleared out during that detonation because
Yeah.
that was the diciest part.
Yeah.
And that occurred on Monday. So,
Yeah, and I have pictures that
Yeah.
Taylor sent me from his house of the burning when the shit was going down. So I'll have to share those with you. But
yeah,
basically,
send those to me. I'll
I will,
overlay them on the
yeah.
video.
so basically, what ends up happening though is somebody posted on Sean's Facebook, "Is your water safe to drink?" And he said,
It's
"Probably
East
not." Just fucking got me. Probably not.
Probably not.
Like, it probably wasn't before.
No, it wasn't.
Definitely not now.
So here's the thing. Okay, you know they have an annual report that comes out every July. It comes in the mail to you, right?
Yeah, oh
For your
yeah,
water,
I get it.
right? Everybody gets
Yeah.
that report. Everybody who's an
Yeah.
adult knows about it. They read through it. They check parts per million and heavy metals and gases
Yeah.
inside their water, right?
And our
You wanna
water is
know.
good.
Our
water down
water's
here is
fucking great,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It is
Youngstown
Well, you
water
go
is
down
solid.
river, you go to East Palestine, they're drinking out of wells. They got an aquifer.
Mm-hmm.
You can check the report. It's considered like a critical point because it's not protected by a layer of clay and it's less than 39 feet underground. Basically, if you go down there and you dig a 4-foot ditch, you have a well.
Yeah.
It's not hard to hit water down there because it's in a low part. And the problem is there's so much pollution down there from agricultural runoff, road runoff, because you got Route 51 running through there.
Mm-hmm.
You got hillbillies dumping oil and trash in the fucking creeks all the time. It's like, you ever go and visit somebody or have a friend from East Palestine?
I drive through there on the way to the airport. That's it.
Yeah, but
I stopped and got a burger there once.
Right, you're one of them
rough.
motherfuckers who don't want to pay the $9 on
The $9.
So you gotta go like Route 50 or whatever
Yeah.
it is.
51.
51.
No, you take.
Come on, dude.
You take 14 over to
No.
375.
You go all the way to Chippewa.
170,
and then you
14,
get on the
165. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, 51.
Yeah. I don't pay tolls to get to the airport.
That's
It's about the same mileage, too.
I don't pay tolls to go to the airport.
54 miles.
Schmidt, you
54
believe that?
miles.
You believe that?
Or no, 64 miles. 64 miles.
Yeah, you don't believe that.
As the road goes. But yeah, so I've had friends. I grew up, hey,
You have some friends?
yeah, back in the day. Yeah. I guess I don't. No, but back in the day, I had friends, playing either soccer or whatever, and they'd be like, yeah, come on down to my house in East Palestine. We got a field, blah, blah, we'll play. You drink their water because you're thirsty from flying, right? Tastes like eggs. It was shit. It was like, ah. And they're like, yeah, we got well water. Well, I suppose you don't pay a bill, but
There's a Burger King around there too that's pretty rough.
yeah, they're all rough.
Yeah, I remember one time I stopped back on the way. My wife and I came home from Boston. We had gone there for a couple weeks. Came back, and we get these burgers, and she opens hers, and it's a Whopper, and it looks picture perfect. And she goes, "Look how nice mine looks.
Yeah.
This is almost perfect."
Yeah, and it's
That's
not
like,
cooked.
I was like, "That's great." And then I opened mine, and it looked like somebody just
Sat
fucking
on
threw it in there and fucking wrapped it up. There you go. It's like
Every
they
time
had
I've
the
had one that
trainees
looks,
fucking
every time I
make
had
mine.
one that looks good, it
meth
tastes
mouth
like shit.
Sally's over there like, "Hey, this is gonna be a great burger." And I got the fucking cheese is half stuck to the wrapper, half on the patty. I'm like, this is disgusting.
That's what you
My
get
wife
nowadays.
couldn't eat her burger because
You
she was
ever order a
laughing
Whopper?
so hard
Yeah.
at
You ever
how
get cheese
hideous
on your
mine
Whopper?
was.
Uh-huh.
See, I don't get cheese on my Whopper because it's got enough mayonnaise.
I get cheese on the Whopper.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to that American cheese on a burger.
Well,
I get
My
a
mind has been
I get a
trained into
triple
obesity.
Whopper with nothing on it except mayo, ketchup, and cheese. That's it. No lettuce, no tomato, no
all
pickle.
right. Well, no pun intended, but this conversation is going off the rails, and I'm going to cut it there. Less than
24 karat.
Mark.
Yeah, Mark.
Okay, one of the things we neglected to talk about is how all of our local news stations, WFMJ and such, were reporting that Valley residents were supposed to remain indoors this week until they gave the lift.
They were advising it.
They were advising it, yeah. So people in Poland were saying that they could smell that chlorine gas
How?
smell.
The wind is going that way.
So,
Well, we had winds kicking up our direction. Not only that, I was monitoring air toxicity. And
Where? With what?
there's a website you can go to that basically monitors air
I thought
purity.
you were out there.
Yeah,
All
air
I could
purity
see
website.
is
No, I'm not just standing out
your
there
fucking
like,
ass out
well, let me
there.
ask you something. Does your
oh, it's bad, it's bad.
does it give parts per million of carcinogens or any kind of?
Yes, it does. It
Okay,
breaks
so
it down.
does.
So, and I can show you that too. But
Yeah,
basically,
bring it up.
Yeah, so basically, I was looking up air
What did
monitoring.
it say?
I mean, it said Youngstown's air was fine.
Yeah,
Excellent.
it was. Now you're talking about parts per million.
Yeah,
Now here's the thing.
but they were
You had
saying,
people all the way in Niles claiming they could smell it. Now
Yeah.
I know the wind prevails north mainly, but it's
Yeah.
mainly like a northeast.
Only the people
wind.
that watch
well,
the
yeah, but
news.
they're southeast of us.
Exactly. That's the psychosomatic response and all
Yeah.
the
Only people that could.
I
That watch
couldn't
the
smell
news
anything.
could
Oh,
smell it.
everybody in Bournemouth is. I think I smell something. It's
No,
like,
people in Poland they're a little ritzy, but the people in Poland were saying that they could smell it. I mean, I looked it up, but as the crow
Did they
flies,
call the
I was
police?
25 miles
yeah.
from my house to the train derailment.
Did they
I'm
call-
19 miles.
You're
Did they
19
call the
miles.
police?
I couldn't smell a fucking thing.
Yeah, I couldn't smell anything.
I was out there smoking a
They
cigarette.
call-
I couldn't
I'm
smell.
sure
I was
they-
taking
I'm
nice
sure they
deep
did.
breaths.
They call the ambulance.
Oh,
out?
sure.
Yeah.
So-
a little verklempt.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
All right, but the
I mean,
air
we
quality-
had it was a nice warm day, so I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna be outside. So I'm outside cooking pork chops, thinking I might be breathing the toxic fumes. But again, having a chemistry background, I know that whatever the permissible exposure, like they're saying it's pretty low, as we
Yeah.
mentioned earlier. Like our noses are so sensitive that like when it's gonna rain, for example,
Yeah.
that smell that you
Smell
get,
that release.
that release that comes from the plants when it's about to rain, like we smell that. but it's so low. It's like 0.25 parts per million, and we're still smelling it.
Yeah.
So that's how sensitive your nose is. You would smell it if there was something in the air that was a little off. Or you'd have like that, like when you're around xylene and you can taste it in the back of your throat.
Yeah.
It's
normally from washing your hands in it. Disclaimer, don't do that.
Don't do that
We
anymore.
used to do that shit.
Old liver cancer Joe over here.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Drink your beer.
With
I
epoxy,
got to get the epoxy off.
you got to get all that shit
Clean your
off.
tools with
We
fucking
used to
nails
clean.
and all
That's
across
how
the
we
wood.
learned
Yeah.
to clean your hand off. We're talking 2000.
See, I used acetone, but probably still not great.
Yeah, that's probably the better way to go.
I used acetone, probably still not great though.
It's probably
find
not
out.
great.
It's probably all not great, but I think the biggest thing we need. Oh, anyway, back to
Let's get back
here.
on track. Like that train couldn't.
So one of the things.
Did the conductor survive?
Yeah, so the derailment
go down
happened
with the
afterwards. They actually kept carrying on
He didn't go down with the
whenever
ship.
Conway stayed. That's not the protocol.
Don't give up the ship.
That's not the protocol, anyways. You make
have violin
it
players.
because you have to clear the track at some point.
I would stand.
You have to clear the track at some point. You got to get to either a station or
Did
rail
it fall
yard.
over too? Did it derail?
No.
I think he cut it loose, didn't he?
It was further back.
He can cut them all loose.
Yeah, I think he cut it loose.
Can he not?
I don't.
He can,
I don't want to
he can
speculate on that.
electronically cut them
Yeah,
loose.
I don't want to
I'm pretty
speculate on that.
I know
If
that.
he's awake, yeah.
Because I took a couple tests
Oh.
to be a
conductor?
conductor
Yeah.
for Norfolk Southern.
I'm gonna bleep that out.
Why?
Norfolk Southern.
Isn't that a train company?
Yes, that is the train company.
Oh, that's
the one that derailed.
Oh, well, good thing. A good thing I didn't pass that test.
Yeah.
So, back to our rails and sales conversation. One of the things we were worried about was air quality. So, but you could look online and they have air monitors where they talk about the air quality in a given area. And one of the reasons they would not let anybody back in East Palestine was because the fire chief had to determine that it was 100% like clear, nothing showing up at all on the air monitors, and that's why they weren't letting people come back.
So what if I told you that about 10 in the morning on, I want to say Tuesday,
You were there
I was there.
on ground zero.
Yeah.
Did you
And
sneak
I
through the
happened
woods?
to have, yes, and I happened to have come across a air monitor that is made by Honeywell. It is called the Honeywell RAE
You stole this?
area. Nope, that was a piece of federal equipment.
Did he burp into
It's called the RAE.
But hold on, you came upon it. Like, could
Pro.
you take it?
No, he just saw it.
No, I looked at it.
Kind of like a trail cam. He saw it.
Where was it?
It's basically the case. It was about 0.9 miles on the perimeter upwind.
So no one was guarding it.
No, they stationed it by a tree. And went and recovered.
Did you look and see what it
Yes.
said?
So
it's monitoring
and the
the
thing
air
is, you can
quality right
program
now.
this thing. It's got a spectral analyzer.
And
in
it's
it.
not detecting.
You can program it. You can hear it sucking the whole time. These
Yeah.
things, they run it. They have they're running it like 90 watts.
We have those machines.
90 watts of
but
power.
they're for personal use.
Yeah, you got the little
You
one.
wear
Like
it
the little
on
guys,
you.
you wear it on you.
And
Yeah.
it-
Yeah.
It tells
Well,
you
this
what your
one is a
permissible
15.
exposure
You
limit
could
is.
stick it.
Depending on what kit you get, this is anywhere from $15,000 to $60,000 piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Standalone, it's about $15,600. It's high speed. Anyways, I look at it and they have it programmed for vinyl chloride, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, hydrogen chloride (HCl), and sulfur dioxide.
Okay.
Okay, so sulfur dioxide is not
Did you
a
take a
byproduct.
picture of this?
Yes, got a video and everything. So sulfur dioxide is not a byproduct of the decomposition under combustion for vinyl chloride. Hydrogen chloride is
Yeah.
HCl, and when it goes aqueous, hydrochloric acid.
Mm-hmm.
Carbon dioxide is obviously water, because if you're going to burn anything in the presence of oxygen, some of those hydrogen, two of them are going to bond with water, H2O. Carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and phosgene occurs
Phosgene.
very, very low, like 40 parts per million,
Yeah.
but still in the significant amount that it was worrisome. Whereas, like, the decomp is going to be like 27,000 parts per million for HCl, which I think was a bigger risk. But
Did you take your drone?
everybody said yes. That's a funny thing. So they threw up a RAWS, restricted operating zone. I couldn't tell you how big it was unless I looked at the scale of the map. But from ground zero to where I was, it overlapped it by probably quarter mile. So if I was about a mile out, you're talking about basically 2,000 meters from ground zero radius.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I couldn't even launch. The restricted operating zone and restricted airspace made it so that I could not even key up my drone to launch. And had I went outside of that zone and launched and flew in, it would have stopped it at about 2K out. So yeah, I tried to do recon and everything. Yeah. And people were like, "Oh, you're crazy. Why would you do that?" I got my reasons. Never ask anybody to do what you're not willing to do.
So what were you trying to do?
Never ask anybody to do what you're not willing to do.
I get it.
Anyway.
Were you trying to find somebody's dog?
No.
He's going right here. Why go far? Anyway.
I'm not going to ask anybody to do what I'm not willing to do. I'm not going to sit in the operations center.
Right. You were trying to get feet on the ground so you could see.
Yeah, leaders recon.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
So I'm going to cut that out.
Makes sense.
Saw a goat munching at hay. Seemed to be fine.
He's dead now.
Well, he's got liver cancer. He'll be a while.
All right.
It takes a long time for the liver cancer to get you. It's not like it kills you instantly.
No.
The only way this stuff would kill you instantly is if, like,
You were
it is
right next to
replacing the
fucking-
oxygen that you're trying to breathe,
Yeah.
and then you would
And you're not
suffocate.
able to off gas it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's so, like, but that's not, so there's no immediate risk of, like, I'm dead right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is an immediate risk of, like, I'm going to give me a real bad case of liver cancer.
Yeah.
You know?
But the hydrogen chloride could kill you in very short order.
Yeah, it could.
Yeah. That's why all those birds were dropping,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why
And
a lot
the
of
fish are dead. Yeah.
Fish were dying.
So,
Now they're sensitive to it. That's why you used to put a canary in a cage in a coal mine.
mhm.
When it stopped singing, oh, there's bad
Yeah.
gas. Usually you could smell it by
It'll
then.
affect him first.
Yeah. Usually you could smell it by then. You know, hydrogen sulfide. That sour gas.
That's
It smells
why.
like
That's
rotten
why
eggs.
the Russians use dogs with explosives to go underneath tanks.
Yeah. But they only went for T-35 because that's what they were trained.
They could run them back to their masters because they were scared.
Off the rails. Nothing to do with it.
Let's land this bird.
Yeah.
Fetch!
I don't think I have anything to